Welcome to the Business Results Program. This is how you can transform yourself, your team, and your whole company. My name is Pete Winarski. I'm the CEO of Win Enterprises, LLC, and this video is us recording a podcast episode. Podcast Business Results Radio. Look up businessresultsradio.com or go check it out on iTunes or one of the other podcast platforms. And do subscribe and do give a 5-star review. Now, you as a business leader, we get what you're going through. You've got overwhelm and stress and frustration. You have high expectations on your shoulders, some of which you put there yourselves. Why can I say this? Because we, our team, we've experienced this ourselves. We have been business leaders. We know what it's like. And boy, how cool is it that you have this resource. You can listen to this podcast, gain some insights about what you can do differently, gain some ideas, some strategies that you can put in place right away to make your life easier. That's what we're after here. We want your life to be easier because being a business leader does not have to be this challenging, doesn't have to be this hard. And we want you to exceed your expectations, excel, and achieve the results you want, get your team to thrive, and your company to just absolutely go right through the roof. And you can do that here. Enjoy this episode. Hey everyone, Pete Winarski here, and this is Business Results Radio one more time. And today we have Sherri Richards with us as our guest. And Sherri, quick hello. How are you doing today?
Hey, great, Pete. I'm excellent. Thanks for having me.
You bet. I'm going to intro you with glasses on. So
okay. Got it.
My piece of paper here. So let me just hit some highlights. You know, Sherri, you and I have known each other, boy, how long now? 5-ish years, I think.
Yep, at least.
Yeah, bouncing in and out of that Detroit, Dearborn area, which has been kind of fun. We've, we were both we met in the circles of the EBC, the Evolutionary Business Council, and with Sean Duperrin and some of the media training that she puts on. We were in some of that stuff, and of course, Sean, her husband Terry, and you have this gig going on, which is exactly what we're going to talk about today with that. So
that's great.
Let's hit some highlights to who you are. So Sherri, okay. And the other thing is, you're not just this person out there with this company called Good Fat, but you also have this really interesting thing helping companies out as a money therapist and a CFO, which is so critical because little secret, we've worked with Sherri in our company back about a year ago, just because we recognize, we got to get our books a little bit tighter. We were going through some transitions from bookkeeper to bookkeeper to bookkeeper, and things weren't just snapping into place the way we wanted them to. And we engaged you to help us get things in order, and you as the CFO for a short while for us, man, you buttoned us up real quick. It was awesome.
Thank you. I had a great time.
And now of course we have a CFO, David Tweed, who's part of our team is
right.
That, but what he's doing is following the structures that you helped put into place. So good on you for there. So if you need a temporary CFO or someone to help you, Sherri's definitely someone to talk to. Here's a little bit about your background. Daimler Trucks. So Daimler, of course, in the Detroit area is a big player. The founder and CEO of Rise Consulting. So that's this whole helping small businesses with getting their finances squared away. And then, and I love this part, the founding partner and CFO for the Good Fat Company. And this is it's hard to believe that was 2015.
I know.
I remember when you handed me, like we were, we're starting up the program again, and Sean was doing something with her media mastery up in the front, and you handed me a bar, and I took a big bite, and because I have a nut allergy. Does this have nuts in it?
Yeah, I know. Oh.
And then of course, Sean keeps a very tight ship, so it's like, hey, what's going on back there? Well, just trying to not die in your classroom. So that was awesome. But Good Fat bars, also you happen to know a lot about Good Fat, and you started Good Life magazine too, or Good Fat Life. So I think there's so many great things to talk about with you today, Sherri. The background you have, and you also you're a professor as well.
Yep. Yep. Of entrepreneurship. Those students they keep me humble, Pete. So,
Yeah.
it's a great way to be reminded of the curse of knowledge.
Mm.
How easy it is to assume that everybody knows what you know,
Oh goodness.
and and um, and they don't. So it doesn't mean that I know everything. It's just that the students give me feedback, and so it's really humbling. And plus, I learn a ton from them too. So
Right. Yeah, and of course I'm asked questions from clients. So it's, you have students, I have business clients, you have business clients too. And collectively, when you think about the dialogue that we get into, and you forget, you start with a new client, and you just were in some other relationship, with a client, with helping a company maybe for an extended period of time, and then you start something new, and you're right, it's humbling, the questions that you get. What do you mean by that? Or what do I do if? And it's like, oh yeah, we're kind of at stage one here.
exactly,
Which
yeah.
is cool.
And a lot of the times, with the clients that I have, they are coming from, they are either starting up, or they're stuck, or they're ready to grow to the next level, and their numbers need cleaning up. And a lot of times they'll just glaze over,
Mm,
because they're really brilliant at the product or service they provide, but the financials and the CFO stuff and the cash flows and all of that is not what they love to do.
right. Well,
So,
that really talks to also, if you're a one person company, obviously you have to take off one hat, put on the next hat, and keep bouncing between roles. And, versus growing and having a couple team members. And I'll tell you, and you may already know this, but when I was a one person consulting company way back, I actually, I didn't like the finance part. I didn't like the admin of having to go and invoice for my services. And it was just a nuisance step for me. And so I remember this one client called up and said, hey, just checking in, you didn't invoice us for last month yet. I'm like, well, like, what a cardinal sin, right? That's the money, that's the revenue. It's not going to end up in my bank account if I don't go and click the button to actually send the invoice. So, that's not my strength. My strength is somewhere else. And, so now building a team, we've got, first of all, it lines up really well with David Tweet, who's my business partner here. And, he does a lot of the consulting and the managing of the resources we have, and some of the client relationships. And certainly with his CFO hat on, he doesn't mind diving into the books. He's an Excel numbers, just loves geeking out over that stuff.
right.
Ways that, I'm happy he does, because, I'm functional, but I don't want to geek out. It's not my passion. So now we've got, a bookkeeper on staff, and, they've built this tremendous relationship. So I have that. I'm not the one person company, as you just pointed out. If
Right.
I didn't have that, I'd be forced to either get good at the basics, or hire someone else, or bring you in to help structure, how do I do what I do? I mean, there's lots of
Yeah.
paths, but it's necessary. You can't ignore it.
Right. You can't ignore it. And I had one client today that, we were working through her numbers. It's like, where is my cash going? I'm bringing all this cash in. Where is it going? And she was literally hyperventilating as we were starting to work through it. So we have to stop back. That's where the money therapy comes in. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, we stop. I have to meet you where you are, because this is where you are right now.
Mhm.
And then we created a process that was comfortable for her,
Right.
as well as some beliefs around. We had to stop and look at some of the beliefs that she had, and reposition those, so that the time that she was spending doing this was contributing to her overall bigger vision rather than to just, oh my gosh, I've got to look at where my money's going.
Mm-hmm.
So it worked. I mean, it was brilliant. She was really happy and excited and felt empowered when we were done, which is the goal, right?
Right.
You want people you're working with, anybody, whether they're colleagues or clients or whatever, you want them to be excited and empowered when they leave working with you, not like, oh my gosh, I feel beat up. So
Yeah, apprehension over calling the bookkeeper, right? Oh,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so that's what I do for a lot of people, is help them build teams, build a bookkeeper and get a good CPA that is really cares about their business. And so we can work as a team, and then they don't have to do that.
and what a release, right? That stress just goes away because you're not, so anxious about, oh, I've got to check. I've got X coming in. I've got Y going out. Where did it all go? Somebody's on top of that sort of thing for you.
Right. And just like you said, I mean, I had one client who, same thing. He wasn't invoicing because he hated it. But mentally he's like, I can do this. I don't want to, there's no reason I can't do it. But yet every time it came to do it, he just would find, oh, the oven needs cleaning, as I always like to say. So anything but to do that. And so we found a service that did it for, it's not expensive. And you always make more money than you always earn and generate more income than it costs to hire those services.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually a really important exercise, for any business leader, and that could be someone who's in a Fortune 500 company, as well as someone who's a small company or a one-person company. What's an hour of your time worth if you were to zero in on those most important activities that are your core expertise and your core genius, versus getting mired into I'm opening the mail, right? Or
right
whatever. So you spend an hour opening the mail, yet if you spend an hour making some key phone calls or created something like a knowledge piece that turns into a podcast or a blog or an article, and then that gets out there and it builds your business as a result, there's no trade-off. I mean, of course you don't want to be the person opening the mail. Get somebody to do that for you.
Right. And when I think the other thing is that people don't know where to start, right? So you don't know where to start. So if you have a friend or a colleague or somebody that you can call and just get a recommendation, it literally is so much easier. I mean, it's just so much easier, but they don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And so like you and I, we spend time vetting out resources, so that, I mean, that's part of the service that's offered, is vetting those resources to be sure that they're really top-notch, high-integrity people.
That's right. Once you have the team in place, man, you can just be confident. You kind of calibrate on your style and who's got what. And I love it when someone on the team says, "Pete, back off. I got it."
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's good.
So I'm just, before we get into talking about, good fat and, you living the life of an entrepreneur, not just helping entrepreneurs, but living that life. Before we get there, what are some of the biggest challenges or problems that you see small business owners or entrepreneurs actually have? So one, you mentioned a second ago with the client that said, I got so much coming in, but it's all going out. Where's it going? That's got to be pretty stressful. What else? What else comes up as big challenges that business leaders have?
Right. Okay. So I would say the biggest one I see is people don't know where they are. Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's that you start a business and you have kind of a vision out there, and then you get, and even with employees or whatever, whether it's just you or you've got other people, it's just so easy to get caught up in the day-to-day stuff that we lose why we're in business from the beginning, right? And and I find that, I mean, and we can even talk about this with my own companies. I have deliberately had to go back and say, hey, I need accountability from an outside source that knows what they're doing, that forces me to meet on a regular basis to say, hey, how is what you're doing aligning with the vision that you had?
Right.
What's working, what's not working, because it's just so easy to get, like I said, caught up in the day-to-day stuff, or our own entrenched rut way of doing things, that we can really miss opportunities. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that's the biggest thing that I see, is without some outside and without some outside perspective that knows what they're doing.
Right. And I love the way that you phrased it, outside perspective, to provide some accountability. Now, timing wise, it's interesting because I just did a blog about accountability recently, and we do accountability workshops and teach people what it's like to be accountable and hold people accountable, business leaders, how to hold your team accountable through engagement. And of course, what we find is, for some people, accountability it's a ruler across the knuckles, right? It's like, oh man, I don't want to have to be beating up on my people. It's like, it's the sergeant on the TV program. I'm going to hold you accountable for getting this on my desk by 7 a.m. That kind of thing, and it's got this negative tone to it. Yet being accountable is just it's a way to raise your game. So what do you run into, or like, what are some of the client reactions that you have when you talk about accountability? Do they like it? Do they not like it?
I would say, just like you just said, it's all across the board. Some people, I would say 100% of people recognize the value.
Mm-hmm.
There's no issue there, right?
Right.
But if you are now wanting to hold your people accountable, people have relationships with their workers, with their staff, and how they work and how they engage, etc. And so it oftentimes means that relationship has to change.
Mm-hmm.
And that can create a lot of stress. And so, the goal is always to build that in a way that empowers people. It's exciting to people. They can't wait to see what the measurement is, versus dreading it, or just throwing blame, if something doesn't happen, back at somebody else.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And we talk about, on this program, on some previous episodes, that, life is just a game. Your business is just a game, that, as a perspective to have, to kind of reduce the stress and the pressure. And it's like, okay, team, how are we going to do this? And so accountability through engagement is about, rallying the team and getting them focused on the right things. And, anyway, it's another topic for another day, but
right.
But
making it fun, making it fun, so that, and it's all an attitude. I mean, at the end of the day, right? It's all an attitude.
Perfect. Yes.
So, and we get to choose how we want to show up with that. And so sometimes people have just never been exposed to that idea.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And in fact, that's really important, because that's where business leaders who have had the opportunity to work with other business leaders, maybe they had a really good boss, or they had someone who was their mentor or their consultant or their coach, or someone along the way to give them advice and be a sounding board. If you have that other perspective, then what it enables for you is you can have observed what works, have noticed what felt good to you versus what didn't feel so good. And then you could kind of reshape and define your own style as you learn to be a better leader.
Yep. Nope. I totally agree.
Let's play with good fact company.
Okay.
So 2015 is when you launched this thing. What was the origin? I know, Terry DeParin is, he's had some entrepreneurial ideas. I think that's in his blood. That's not in everybody's blood. It's certainly in Terry's. And you and Terry knew each other pretty well, and connected and formed this company together. So fill in the blanks. What happened?
Well, yeah. So, and kind of as I said, to you at some other time is like when I started Rise, I was very deliberate. I left the corporate world and I deliberately started Rise as a consulting company, and this is how I was going to move forward, right?
Mhm.
I have the strategic plan and blah, 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 all
Right.
those things that we do.
As a structured
Right,
CFO type
right.
person.
Exactly. Coming from a very structured, Daimler is a very corporate environment, and I'm so grateful for learning so much from them. So that was, but then Terry and I had a mastermind. We were in a mastermind group together, and Terry's one of what he does is he brings product to market. So new products will come to him, and he'll help roll it out to the market.
Mm-hmm.
And he works a lot in the healthcare industry. And so, to make a long story short, a bar had come to him, and he worked with another partner of ours, Dr. Darren Schmidt, who's a chiropractor and a nutritionist, and does amazing work with the patients. And so Terry went to him and said, "Hey, what do you think of this bar?" And Darren's like, no, I'm not interested in it. And if you're interested in creating a bar, here's where I see a huge gap.
Mm.
And so they talked about it. And then our fourth partner, Christy Hunt, she's a chef, very accomplished chef, and also deep into health and wellness. And so Christy was brought in as helping create the bar and the macros around it. And Terry's like, but we have to have a business partner, somebody that is the business end of it and does the operations and stuff. So that's how we got started. The four of us came together and built this company.
Wow. And so, like, out of the blue, here's the doctor with the insights to what the market needs, says,
right,
if you could do this, and then, so here's Terry with knowing how to get it to market. Here's Christy with knowing how to actually, produce the recipe.
The bars, yep.
Bars themselves, and then you with the business knowledge. So right there are four different perspectives, back to the idea of the need for perspectives and the need for a team. So you got the key four right there.
Right, we did. And then we got a kitchen. We needed a gluten-free kitchen, and we were fortunate enough to live near MSU, because we knew nothing about food science. I mean, Christy did some, but food science and packaging and all that goes with it. And we were so adamant that the ingredients were clean, that they were sourced from sustainable places, the purest products we could get on the planet, and we didn't want any preservatives. But that required very specific packaging and nitrogen flushes and some things. So we had so much to learn, and MSU has one of the best packaging programs in the country, and they took us on as a case, if you will. And so yeah, it's been quite an adventure.
So there's another message in there too about don't try and figure it out yourself. If someone else right around the corner has actually done it before and has some expertise, you partnered up or hired them, or whatever the right language is, but you accessed that expertise.
Right. I mean, I think, at this stage of the game, I've just learned that I don't know what I don't know. And so I'm going to find the best person I can to help me figure that out.
Well, think of how much time it would take, because some people love problem solving and they love the challenge, and they might want to dig in and figure it out themselves. Yet, the amount of elapsed time that would require versus if you just found that person and got them on board, or hired them to help you with the project of defining the processes, you're going to shrink your timeline and therefore get it out into the marketplace, or at least the first generation will be ready almost right away versus having to wait 6 or 12 months.
But Pete, I would even say that there's still, we had to do so much research and interviewing of people, et cetera, around that, because because not everybody has high integrity around the product and service they provide, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's sure we can do this, and then they can't. And we had to learn the language to use to ask the right questions.
Right.
We had a real learning curve around that. And so there was still so much to learn, even then, with finding people that could help us.
Right.
Because not everybody's a good fit. And so anyways, it still had a huge learning curve.
Yeah, and I imagine there's, being a production facility of food, there are requirements, even potentially from the government side, that you
Tons.
you didn't know about them on day one, but you had to learn pretty quick, right?
Yeah. Oh, here's something that you might appreciate is we had to get, we have to get labels. There's very strict labeling requirements on food above a cottage, above 25,000 in sales a year.
Mm-hmm.
Because you go from being a cottage to a commercial. And the FDA, and we had to, get patents and all this stuff and trademarks. And the FDA had to create a whole new food category for us because there'd never been any kind of product that was a good fat snack. They were granola, or they were protein, or they were some mixture of the two, but never a good fat snack.
So there you are, you're a pioneer in that regard too.
Yeah. So that was like all new. And just labeling, figuring out UPC codes and how that all works. So
is there a picture of the four of you in the FDA offices somewhere?
I don't know. I don't know, but we've got pictures of us, like, oh my gosh, okay, really. So we've said a lot of really, okay.
Right. Well, we're talking on the business side a little bit. Let's just, swing the pendulum over to the good fat life and good fat lifestyle. Just, some people listening might be saying, why would I eat fat? Because, clearly some number of years ago, there was a trend that said fat is bad for you. Get low fat or no fat alternatives into your diet. And of course, what they did is they pumped it with sugar, right? So you maybe ate no fat or low fat bars or cereal or food or whatever, and actually gained weight because you threw off, all of the other nutritional elements. So, you have the nutritionist on your team who said, hey, if you wanted to do a fat bar that provided good fats, I'm in. Well, why did he say that? What is good fat in the first place?
Well, our nutritionist, or our baker, is Christy, but Dr. Schmidt he's been treating, hundreds of patients a week at his clinic for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that he was seeing all the time is that people weren't eating enough good fat. And good fat are things like avocados and coconut oil and meat fats. And so because you don't get it, but those are the things that give our brains fuel, and our cells keep healthy cells, and they manage our hormones. And so you need those fats for your body to function well. And so if you don't have those, and like to your point about obesity, it's like 40% of our country is obese, and 100 million people right now are considered to be pre-diabetic or diabetic type 2, and they don't even know about it.
Those numbers are crazy.
Right. And obesity is the precursor to that. And eating fat makes you feel full, right? It's got a high satiety value, and it calms you down, and and so, like to your point, when you eat no fat or low fat, you are getting a lot of sugar, and you're getting other things that just keep your body, your insulin is spiked up, and so you're just constantly wanting more. and that's what creates, insulin resistance and leads to diabetes. So, and please, I am not the medical person on this. This is the lay person's version of how this works.
Which
But
is perfect. That's perfect.
yeah, right. But I've seen just for my own self, a couple years ago, I just started eating a lot more high quality fat. And I just feel better. I don't get tired. I've got tons of energy. I don't take I have zero medical issues, and I take no drugs. And something's working, right?
Yeah, that's right. Versus having to, feeling like you need the 3 p.m. coffee to make it to 6 o'clock, right?
Right. So anyways, that was, and then the other thing that happened with us is that we found is people that care about eating good fat care about, because if you care about that or you want to know more, it's because you understand that good fat is good for your body.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if people care about things that are good for their body, they tend to think about, who they surround themselves with, the thoughts they think in their head, the environment that they live in, where the food that they eat comes from. So like all these other things happen, and so we found that people really wanted to know more. So that's where the magazine, Good Fat Magazine, came from.
Right. So the holistic view of life is you're eating, I imagine exercise and, mindset, mindfulness, attitude. What else? What else might be in there?
So travel. You want to travel. Travel can whack out your eating and sleeping so easily. You travel a lot, right?
Yeah.
So how do what kinds of foods and snacks can you take with you, or where can you go out to eat that's going to have food that is high quality, good fat? I was reading an article today that there's now these things called keto chips that are just junk food. It's like junk fats.
Oh, really?
So there's a when the low carb foods all came out, right? You remember that? And so, like you said, they got loaded up with sugar and preservatives and all kinds of chemicals to make them taste good. Well, now there's keto products coming out that are loaded up with all kinds of dirty foods, if you will, versus
Mm-hmm.
clean foods that will keep you eating high fat and low carb, but the quality of the food it can be suspect.
So that's got to be a real challenge, for you and for your customers, right? The consumers. How do you break through, this perception out there that anything that's fat is good, anything that's keto is good? And you didn't define keto. Let me just ask you, what do you, when you say keto, what is that?
Keto is a way of eating, and it's primarily you're eating like 75, and this will range a little bit, like 75 good fat. Your diet is fat, and then 20% is protein, and then 5% is carbs. So that's kind of what it looks like.
Totally
right?
upside down from
from the tradition.
cereals.
Exactly, from the traditional food pyramid. And there's and so it's not for everybody.
Right.
So I would never say that everybody should go on a keto diet, because it's not. You have to know what works with your body. But the point is that everybody, and there's no argument around, well, I shouldn't say that, because somebody will say, yes, there is. But we all need good, healthy fat to maintain our, body function.
Mm-hmm.
We were designed that way.
So then now knowing what that is, I appreciate that. So the idea now of, I as an individual have heard something about keto is good, fat, more fats are good as opposed to bad. And now I want to go make some choices on going to the grocery store, or going, to, eat in a restaurant.
Right.
And here you are with the Good Fat Bar. So you're the Good Fat Bar company. You have a food product. How do you get your bar in front of someone versus this keto chip, which is actually junky, not good?
That's a great question, Pete. And that's a great question. It's education and exposure, and
Which is where the magazine comes in and plays a role.
exactly. And that's another reason that we started it. And also, we're doing some community things I live in Brighton, Michigan, and we're doing some community things in Brighton to connect with people who care about health and wellness, to educate them. And so, we're doing all the traditional kinds of things and some kind of fun, special things to get in front of people to have that conversation. And the intention is to not have another boring conversation around food.
Yeah.
But to have fun with it. And it's like, hey, did you know this? Or how's this? Try this and see how it makes you feel.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing that people find when they try the bars, and they're not for everybody. Everybody's not used to having a real fatty taste in their mouth. It's a high satiety value. But they find that they go into this like even keel. They just feel good. So it's not an up, down, or your energy doesn't spike up or down. It just is really even.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's almost a foreign feeling for a lot of people.
Right. It's probably back to what nature was, what we were designed to be in the first place. We've just, gotten away from it.
Exactly how we were designed. So anyways, it's really been quite an adventure. We've met so many people we would have never met, if we weren't in this space. Because now it's like I call people. It's like, hey, I see that you're doing this. This is what we're doing. Can we talk and just share information or connect or see how we can support each other? And
right.
And one of the things that I wanted to say too is that keto is typically, people think of it as a lot of meat, and it can be, but it could also be plant-based too, because avocados are plants, are actually they're fruits. And so it can really be designed what works for you.
Right. Got it. So here you are in 2015, the idea comes forward, you were invited in because of your business background side, and off you go, and you get you got the packaging figured out. There's a bunch of things with the FDA. They created this new food category because you were breaking new ground. And now here you are. So what are some of the other challenges? You've got to produce the bars, you've got to distribute the bars, you have to do your marketing side. What are some of the things that are like on your list of things to solve, like right now as one of the business owners?
One of the big things is our bars melt at 92 degrees. So shipping, when it's 110 out,
oh wow,
is shipping, or 95 out becomes a real challenge.
How did you discover that
they melt?
Yeah.
Well, it's fat. Cocoa butter, melts. And I think we always knew that. It's like a chocolate bar.
Yeah.
It melts when it gets warm. And so that's our one of our big dilemmas right now is how to ship economically. That's the big key.
That's a key word, right? Because obviously you could think about refrigerated shipping containers and
right
systems and all of this. How much is that adding to your cost? And then it's like, are we in trouble? Can we still do it this way?
Exactly. So that's been that's our big challenge right now. And then another challenge is taste. Some people love the bars, they buy them over and over and over, and other people, they're like, you know what, this taste just isn't working for me. So we've got some really cool things happening. In fact, I'm waiting for some confirmations any minute now of some people we're going to be working with around that are real experts in the taste world.
Oh, super.
And also in the packing shipping world.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's right on the mark. I mean, you 5 years ago, you might not have even thought that those were issues. And now, because of where you were progressed to, it's like, okay, well, it's just the next level problem. And, Sherri, for the people listening, the business evolves, and, where your business is today, there's things that are 2 years, not even just 5 years, 2 years down the line that are going to come out of the blue unexpectedly, and you're going to have to figure out how to deal with them. It's just, it's not. We were saying this as we were, just getting set up, and getting the technology, squared away so that we can have this. It didn't go exactly the way we wanted. No big deal, right? We figure it out. We roll with it. We adjust, because as a business leader, as an entrepreneur, you have to. Otherwise, you're not around very long.
Well, and to your point, so one of the things I teach at the university is creativity and innovation, right? And by definition, we are creating, each of us are creating new things every minute of every day, primarily. If you're an entrepreneur, you are. And even in business that's been around for years, you still have to keep up and keep current and keep fresh. And so to have that attitude of, okay, and you to have that attitude, and people in your world that think the same, they think of like a can-do attitude. Well, everything's possible.
Right.
And we need some different perspectives on how we're gonna resolve this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and failure, I mean, we have to tell each other all the time. It's like, okay, we must be doing really good. We failed 15 times today, right?
That's right.
So,
in the end, you get to invent a light bulb.
There you go. I mean, but that's so true, because without that, you're not moving forward.
Yes.
And
it's just a multiple step process where, things that we wouldn't normally define as success didn't, you don't hit a home run on your first swing. When you're in T-ball, or, T-ball,
right.
in Little League, and then, you play in the advanced leagues and high school and then college, then you make the bigs. And by the way, it's only a small percent. So, you got to build up and have the successes along the way, and you have to stumble and fail and build on those other lessons learned in order to get there.
Right. And so with Good Fat Life, it asked about Good Fat Life, those are all underpinnings of the company, right? And so, we were talking a little bit is about, all of us have to decide who we are as a company, our integrity, our visions, our, whatever our driving values are. And then those kind of keep you moving forward.
Yeah, well, and here's something that's interesting. What you're touching on is, this is a lot more than just let's bring a product out to market called a bar. This is you creating a movement. And there's conversation out there in the world that is, you want to create something that's bigger than just you, something that people can line up and get behind. I mean, what you're creating is so big, the FDA had to give it a name.
I like the way you think, Pete. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
But that is, you're right. You're right. That's very cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this movement that I think are out in front of. People are starting to hear the words keto and know that fat is good, but maybe not in this context. And so what you're describing is, now there's a whole lifestyle around it. And people, this is good for you if these other things fall into place. And you just talked about aligning with your values. What do you care about? Do you care about? Some people don't care about their waistline or their health. Other people do. So you're identifying. That's the other thing about building a movement. You want to identify who are the people that this is for and who it's not for.
Right.
So that you can separate out. And so you're not spending a whole lot of time trying to convince somebody that this really isn't for. You're just, giving opportunities for people to raise their hands and say, yeah, that sounds like something I would want to know more about. How do I get involved?
Right. Exactly. And we're wanting to change the conversation around fat or health and wellness, um, but in a way that's not, it's not the same old thing. Do these three things and this will happen, or these, what five things not to do. I mean, those are important and they're helpful, and there's a deeper conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a deeper conversation um, around some of this, like food. We have a section in the magazine around farmers, like what's happening with our farmers. I mean, what's really happening with our source of food. It's fascinating, and most of us have no access to what's really going on in a way that's easy. It's a quick read, but you can go, oh, I just learned something that's important that I really didn't know.
Right. And
I
that
even
makes,
have it. Oh,
it just makes perfect sense. I mean, you said you wanted the best, high quality, clean ingredients. Well, where are they going to come from? So for you to incorporate, what's going on for the farmers into that bigger conversation, it lines up perfectly when you think about it that way.
well, and here's another thing. It's like we added a section on money into the magazine. This, money, good fat money. And the reason is because people are stressed when they have money issues, and lots of people have money issues.
Mm,
And so we said, let's see if we can't shift the conversation or provide ways of thinking that may be more accessible, and say, oh,
It's 5 o'clock.
I can do that. I can, just that next little step, Pete. So,
yeah. So did Sherri, the money therapist, come up with that idea of managing stress?
well, I am the editor, so I get to kind of make some.
I love it.
I get to kind of, but you know what? Anyway, so it's fun. We're
Yeah.
trying. We're trying because we want to have a different conversation.
So let's talk about how can people find out where they can read the magazine. How do they get Good Fat Life, and where can they get the bars, Good Fat Bars?
Okay, so great question. The bars are available in a couple hundred chiropractors across the country, and some yoga studios, etc. But the easiest way to get them is to just go online to Good Fat Company, and you can order them.
Okay, goodfatcompany.com.
Yeah, .com. Yep, order them there. And then the magazine is goodfatlife.com.
Perfect. Goodfatcompany.com, goodfatlife.com.
Right.
And the brand, of course, is Good Fat.
It's Good Fat. That's right. That is Good Fat. And so anyways, that's what Good Fat's evolving to, Pete.
Yeah, I love this. And what I really like about today's conversation is, you and I have talked a little bit about Good Fat and Good Fat Company and what's going on. And I think you showed me in person the first issue of the magazine when we were together.
Yep.
Sometime a few months back or a year ago, whatever it was. And, so I'm in touch with what's going on, and I learned a bunch today, right? So there's still, this is as you pointed out, it's an evolving conversation. It's something where people are starting to hear a little bit about on the fringes, but they may not be hearing the most accurate or the best information. And so you've provided a resource for that. I love this idea that you are creating a movement. It's a bigger than a bar. It's and yet you're obviously the success of your company and of the bars will, you have to sell bars in order to keep. And you've got to sell bars that, will get there even when it's over 80, 92 degrees, whatever it was you said.
Yep. No, that's true.
Right. So
right.
Very, very interesting. And the lessons for entrepreneurs who might be listening to this. And this could be, an entrepreneur could be, an individual with an idea inside of a bigger company, right? What we're pointing out here, there are lots of dynamics. These aren't just for one person companies to start up and then scratch their head and figure it out. This could be, a new product or service line of a bigger company, and recognizing hey, there's things you can learn from listening. Listen again to the conversation today. Sherri, I think there's a lot of insights that you can get about, oh man, what do I do? How do I get this out there? And what do I have to think about?
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity. That's one of my big passions is supporting entrepreneurs and learning from entrepreneurs, right? Because none of us have all the answers.
Yes.
So I listen to tons of podcasts because I'm always curious as like, how do people, how do they solve this, or what did they think about that? So it's great what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that,
Appreciate the opportunity.
You're here, you're helping, you're contributing, you're making this podcast better, and I appreciate you for that. So thank you again.
Good. All right. Well, good. Well, and yeah, check out the latest issue.
Yes, Good
I'd
Fat
love your
Life,
feedback. Yes.
Good Fat Life and Good Fat Company.
Yes.
Both.com. So thank you, Sherri. And for those listening, come on back. We've got more great content queued up shortly. Take care, everyone. Hey, Pete here again. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that video. And I invite you to come back. Come back to this video channel or go to the podcast channel for Business Results Radio. Check it out, subscribe, give a 5-star review, and go ahead and share it with your friends. Until then, we'll see you again.